Hi, in this video, I want to take a few minutes or 15 to talk about our grading structure for the class. It's not the traditional way I have taught or the way I learned when I was in college. So I think it warrants a little bit of attention before we start the quarter. Our assessment structure or grading structure is going to be a combination of a few different grading styles, one called specifications grading and the other called labor-based grading. I've kind of brought these two ideas together, and I'll tell you what they look like. So for our grading this quarter, you're not going to get a percentage point for an assignment. Instead, you're just going to be graded as either I, C, or M. There'll be a rubric that explains how to get these grades, and they correspond to I for incomplete. This means assignments have not every component attempted, right? So let's say you do an exam and do 3 out of the 5 questions, but don't do the other 2. This would be incomplete. Then there are complete grades. These are going to be assignments where all of the problems are attempted for the most part, and the work in them is not quite at what we're going to call a mastery level. So it'll be anything that is B plus level work or lower. A mastery grade is anything that is B plus or A minus work. And this means the student is demonstrating that they understand the concepts, they're understanding them well enough that they can apply them in slightly different situations and synthesize the concepts together, um, and have a strong understanding of the material. And that's all it means. So these will be the 3 grades you see. Now, you'll also be able to revise your work, and you're going to have uh, longer extended deadlines for all of this work too. So you can really give it the time that you need. You're going to have infinite attempts for practice type assessments or assignments. These are going to be lecture, question quizzes, and homework assignments. And you'll have just one revision or retake. So a total of 2 attempts for labs and for exams. Now, these are my real assessments. These are where I find out what you actually know about the chapter's material, how well you understand it. The lecture questions and the homework, these are just practice to help you learn. In general, grades are going to be based on the number of assignments you complete and the number of assignments that you complete at a mastery level, either the first time you try it or the second. Having a revision or a retake on an assignment to get to a mastery grade doesn't hurt your grade at all. It'll be the same as getting it on the first try. And we'll make sure that throughout the class, I have clear expectations for what mastery or complete work really means. And so I'll do this with rubrics. And if you ever feel that it's unclear, let me know so I can clarify it. My intention is not for you to be guessing what you need to do to get a mastery grade or a grade of your choice in the class. So how does this system compare to a traditional grading system? So normally in a class, especially a chemistry class, we see points awarded for each assignment, like 10 points or 50 points. And in this one, we're not going to have that. We're just going to be 1 point for every assignment just to be able to track whether or not you have a mastery grade complete or incomplete. So basically, we're grading these almost pass fail with just kind of completeness or incompleteness. And then with this bonus level of like, hey, good work. You really understand this. This is like A minus work or better. Traditionally, students have one opportunity to complete each assignment, and with this system, you'll have multiple opportunities, so you can revise. Usually, feedback in a traditional system is used to improve your performance on a later assignment, like a final exam. That comes maybe months later after you learn the material, and then you have to go back and review it. This time, students are going to take feedback to improve their understanding in the moment on the current assessment. So it's getting feedback and then working to understand that material better, without having to wait till the end of the quarter to see to assess how well that understanding has been revised. Traditionally, my deadlines were very rigid. Now deadlines get to be very flexible with revision opportunities. Students in general in a traditional system can do less work on some units and still get a passing grade. Here, students are going to need to attempt to learn certain numbers of units to be able to get a passing grade. So rather than just doing less work on some types of assignments and all the work on others, it's really like just tackling a chapter and being like, I'm really going to get this, and then tackling the next chapter. Chemistry builds on itself. So this really helps us learn chemistry. So like if you have a strong foundation, like you don't move on until you're solid on one topic and then you build onto it with the next and the next. So overall, traditionally grades are going to be calculated as a rolling percentage of points. And our grades this quarter are going to be determined by the amount of work that's completed and the amount of work that's completed at a mastery level. Typically, I would give like kind of a continuum of grades 4.0, 3.9 based on that percentage. Here, since we're basically looking at a checklist of to do items and how well they were done, we're going to have quantized grades where students can earn a 4.0 or 3.8 or a 3.5. Both ways of teaching, I always give lots of feedback, and that's always one of my priorities. So I'm going to walk through how this is going to affect different types of assignments. Our lecture quizzes. So these are intended to be done after you watch the lectures and read the book. And it's actually a self-assessment. It's intended for you to just do 4 what I think are foundational questions. Things that might be hard at first as you're getting used to the material, but after you study it a bit, they'll be easy. And it's a way for you to test where are the areas that you really understood coming out of the lectures, the material, and areas that you still have some confusion. So that way, you know when you're doing practice problems and homework problems, where are the areas to really focus on and maybe do a little bit of extra work so you can focus your time. And so that's what the goal is going to be for this. And I'm noticing on this slide, there's a typo. You'll have a number of unlimited attempts, but I'm going to set these up so you'll have a score of 1 out of 1 for all of these assignments rather than 4 out of 4. Makes it a little easier to track with everything else. And you'll be able to do these again as many times as you want, but you need to do them until they're complete. The idea is that you do these until you're ready, and after you can get a perfect score on these lecture quizzes, which again are meant to be fast and easy, then you're ready to really go in and dive into the homework without, and I think it'll make that homework time shorter. Homework. So our homework actually, sorry, another typo. Our homework is going to be through Chem 101. I'm trying a new online homework management system this quarter that is supposed to be far more intuitive and easier for students to use, a lot more user friendly. So I'm really hopeful but the policies are going to be the same here. You'll have a homework assignment for each chapter, and to get a mastery grade, you're going to need to get 85% of the points. So it's going to have tracking rolling points because that's just how the system works. And you'll have an assignment with, let's say it has 20 questions. You're going to need to be able to get enough points by answering the questions correctly to get to 85%. I'm going to set them up so that it doesn't deduct points if you get something wrong, and you can take them as many times as you want. Multiple choice questions, I think, will have limited numbers of attempts, just so that way you can't just click through all the options and get to it. There'll be an assignment for each chapter, except 2 and 10 will be combined. Labs. So we have a total of 9 lab assignments. Really, there's only 7 labs. One of our assignments is a lab safety quiz to kind of review. And the last one is just returning your lab kits. Our labs this quarter will be a combination of at-home lab kits and online work. For all of these, the expectations for a mastery grade on the lab is going to be outlined in a rubric. If you have questions about the rubric, please let me know. You'll have 1 revision opportunity for the labs. I'll give back feedback and let you know which areas need to be revised, and then you'll just go back and revise your work and turn it in again once you think it's at that mastery level. And these are one of my real assessments. These are where I'm actually going to get some insight into how well you know the material. Labs you can work on with other students, and we'll have supports in place to help you with labs. We'll have Open Lab with one of our lab techs. MAST is a great resource. I'm happy to help you with them. So these can be done in collaboration, but the work you turn in should be your own. Lastly, we have exams. Now, these will be done individually. Students should not work together, and you should only use the class resources because this is my assessment of how well do you know the material. I'm not going to have big time restrictions on this. I'm not going to try to make these stressful. They might take a bit of time if you're not as familiar with the material. If you know it really well, they should take you less than an hour. Is my goal. Again, these are going to have a rubric that explains my expectations of what a mastery grade is on them, and ask questions if you don't have a clear picture of how to get the grade you want. There'll be a number of things that are on these exams. There'll be calculations and short answer questions, and there'll be usually questions that ask you to bring ideas together, right? So you're not going to be able to just go find a homework problem that you did, copy the problem solving strategy exactly, and turn that in typically. So they're not going to be that style of repeating information. Instead, they're going to test how you combine ideas and how you really apply them. You'll have 9 of these, one for each chapter. There'll just be a couple questions each, maybe like 3 to 6 questions each. So hopefully not too terribly long. And these should be done after you do the lab, after you do the homework, after you do the lecture quizzes, and you should do them when you're feeling really confident about the material. So here is kind of our grade structure summary. And so what I recommend doing is setting a goal grade for yourself. Now, this is a class that's a prereq for nursing and a lot of allied health fields. So students usually tend to come in with high goals because nursing school is competitive, but find out what you think you can accomplish and what you want to accomplish in the context of what's going on in your life, like how many other classes you're doing, how many other responsibilities you're juggling, work, things like that. And then your goal then is to, let's say you set a goal for a 3.8. Your goal is to complete 8 of the 9 assignments for each category. That means you're basically going to skip a chapter of the class. So you start a chapter like, oh my gosh, I don't have the space for this. This week is terrible. Something happened with blah, blah, blah. You can skip it. And so that's trying to give some grace there while still making an A accessible. All of the assignments you turn in need to be revised to a mastery level after you get feedback or on the first attempt. And so this table is essentially telling you for any given grade, what are the number of assignments you need to complete? And that means turning in work that is in a range of F to B, and how many assignments need to be revised or turned in originally at a level that's A minus or B plus. So to pass this class, you need a 2.0. So a 2.0 in this class is going to look like completing 7 of all of the different types of assignments. That's basically completing 7 of the 9 chapters. So that's 7 of the lecture quizzes, 7 of the homework, 7 of the lab, 7 of the exams. Now you can skip 2 and not turn them in at all or have them incomplete. Of those 7 you turn in, 4 of them need to be revised to that mastery level of A minus. That means you're going to have to focus and really know at least 4 of our total 9 chapters that we're working on this quarter. Or sorry, 10 chapters that we're working on this quarter, but 2 are combined, so 9 units, I guess. And so that goes for exams, labs, homeworks, and quizzes. This means to pass this class, you can't just do all of the homework and a couple exams. It just, you won't be able to pass. You have to be able to do at least the complete amount of work for 7 of our chapters. So Canvas isn't going to be great at tracking this for grades, unfortunately. And so I've created a Excel sheet, and this is just kind of like a cut out of it, that's available on Canvas for you to use to populate complete and passing or mastery scores as you get them in Canvas. And that'll then auto tally for you, and there'll be a comparison to the different grades, so you have a sense of where you are in the class. You won't have a rolling percentage to look at. Granted, that rolling percentage you see in your classes in Canvas for the first half of the quarter is basically meaningless. It can be just about anything and change dramatically. In Canvas, to have a letter grade, I have to attach it to a number. And so the numbers I attached it to are 1 for mastery, zero point 0.5 for complete, and 0 for incomplete. 0.5 doesn't mean failing or an F. It just means that it's not mastery. So take the numbers with a grain of salt. So in general, how things shake out in the end usually works out pretty well at the end of the quarter, but there's never a perfect system. And so sometimes we'll have cases where students don't fit nicely into the grade categories that we have for the work they've done. Simple cases are like where a student does all of the work to get one grade and only some of the work to get the next level of grade. And so what I do in those cases is I just give them the grade in between. Right. So let's say you do everything to earn a 2.5, but not all of the assignments to earn a 2 point or a 3.0. Then I would give you a 2.8 in between. Right. Now, there are more complicated cases that I run into. And in these, usually what I see is dramatically different grade levels for the different types of assignments. Like all of the homeworks are perfect, but only like 3 exams have been completed. So it's like the student is a 4.0 student in the homework and a 0.0 student in the exams. These are hard to work off of. And so it works best if I can actually talk to the student and we kind of develop an idea of what is a fair grade through a conversation. So my way that I approach this without a conversation or when I come into a conversation is that my assessments of understanding are labs and exams. And so I will take the grade that labs and exams meet. And then if exceptional work is being done in lecture quizzes and homework, we can bump up from there a little bit, but that the grade will most closely resemble what a student is doing for the exams and for the labs. I will try to update everyone about week 8 or 9 of the quarter with a grade update of my understanding of the grade. And this would be the time to kind of discuss what a fair grade would look like for you if you're a more complicated case. I'll try to provide a survey, a form to kind of facilitate that conversation if it needs to take place too, so it can just go out to everybody. And at any point in the quarter, you should check in with me, be like, I think my grade is this. And I'll be like, oh, yeah, let me tally up. Yeah, I think your grade is this as well. Or, oh, I think I've got you at this. And we can figure out where the differences lie. All right. As you develop questions about this grading system, please reach out. I know that this might be the first time you've been exposed to something like this. Maybe you've seen this before, which would be great. But please don't hesitate to let me know how I can help it be clear and transparent and something that helps both you and me kind of have more agency in how this class works.